Welcome to Revival, the show that sets out to recreate life in the past, with stories and challenges that reveal new insights into each era. This is hands-on history as you've never seen it before. Today Revival takes a closer look at the time when the English nation was born, when Alfred the Great was king and the Vikings are ravaging the country. And to do it, we've come to Whithurst in Kent, the most ambitious reconstruction of a Saxon settlement ever undertaken. And as always on Revival, I'm going to experience it all. Welcome to the Anglo-Saxons.
Whithurst is a one-off, the brainchild of Saxon living history group Regia Anglorum. They've cleared this 1 acre site to recreate a complete 9th century village in incredible detail. Everything is authentic here, from the tools they use to the clothes they wear. And for me, to see a place like this come off the pages of history is amazing.
Today I've got the perfect opportunity to take a closer look at a period that I've always seen as something of a dark age. But as often in history, the reality can be quite different. We know, for example, that Alfred was a moderniser and a reformer, and he organised his people into defended communities very much like this one.
Alfred was that rare breed, a far-sighted monarch who wanted to educate and liberate his people. In fact, he was a king with a plan. He had a vision of the English nation as an organised network of settlements, or burghs, spread out across the south of the country. These Saxon new towns laid the foundation for the places we live in today.
Deine Softie! Neime! Spear! Gange vor!
But the England Alfred inherited was a dangerous place, and the burghs needed protection.
Stepan! Stepan!
Luckily, Nigel Amos, Thane of Whithurst, has already thought of that.
That is absolutely terrifying. But the gear is fantastic, isn't it?
Well, this is the requirement of a Thane. Alric here is wearing a byrnie, a male coat of rings.
And that helmet's got that war face kind of built into it.
This is really a rather antiquated style of helmet, but it's a hangover from the old Roman age with these cheek flaps and the male links there. But yeah, it's a terrifying thing to look at. Imagine having this 6'4" warrior coming in wearing
absolutely,
that helmet.
and you've your arm complete with spear.
Yeah, you begin a battle with a selection of spears, some for throwing and some like this for fighting with.
But your sword is terrific, isn't it? I've been noticing that.
Well, when you come to the sword, it's not simply a weapon, it's also a badge of status, shows my wealth and my power. But if I wanted to fight, I'd use probably another sword. I'd use a good fighting weapon. Alric's got a good plain broadsword here.
Wow, you do feel quite powerful when you've got one of these in your hand, don't you?
Well, you should, you know. It's a weapon used for attack. You can see it's held in one hand and one hand only.
Right.
Okay, it's got a broad blade, which is why it's called a broadsword.
Yeah.
While you can fence and parry and block with it, what it's really intended for is for smashing into your enemy, smashing into the shield and beating him down.
So really you're bludgeoning your enemy, aren't
Absolutely. It's really a sharp club.
you? It's a sharp...
That's what it is. You can stab with it. I mean, a good hefty, stab with your whole weight and your shoulder behind it could possibly get through his armour.
Would it get through the chainmail?
Just about, yeah. But you really have to get something behind it. But, while that's useful, what it's really intended for is smashing away, stunning him through his helmet, smashing the bones beneath the armour. Cutting edge isn't really important. What you're really looking to do is to beat the man to the floor. Then you can kill him at your leisure.
So you and your boys then were the perfect match for these raiders, weren't they?
Absolutely. The Vikings built their reputation on hitting soft targets like monks. Anybody could turn over a monastery full of monks. But my boys could see them off without any trouble. Our biggest problem is catching the Vikings. But if they actually dared to attack a place like this and come up against these guys, they'd really get seen off very, very quickly indeed.
And because these warriors were so effective against the Vikings, the Anglo-Saxons were able to develop a nation of their own. But it could all have been so very different, as the leader of Whithurst, Kim Sidorn, knows only too well.
So how serious was the Viking threat?
Oh, it was terrible. We were within a decade of speaking Old Norse. If Alfred had lost, there would have been nothing between them and the sea. They'd already conquered the rest of the country. They blood-eagled 2 quick kings, and the whole balance of English culture would have changed, because instead of absorbing Norman culture, we would have then looked to the north for inspiration, because our kings and our leaders would have been Scandinavian.
But what is it that lights your fire about being a Saxon? Why aren't you a Roman or a Viking or a Norman?
I think what drives me to this period is the fact that here are the roots of England. Here is the time where people who lived in disparate kingdoms all across the country, which we now call Britain, began to think of themselves as a nation state. And that's what interests me in particular.
But how does building Wickhurst get you closer to that moment in time?
It brings us to a place where we can look around us and think it must have been just like this. To have built a manorial burr, to actually have got your hands dirty cutting the wood, and to have spent time with your friends banging planks onto a roof. And it all comes to the same place, that if we can stand where they stood and hear what they heard, if we can wear their shoes and step where they stepped, then we may trace their footprints in time.
When you look at this settlement, it's that enormous Great Hall that dominates the scene. A powerful statement of wealth by the reigning Saxon lord, or Thane.
So what's it like, Nigel, being a Thane of a place like this?
Frankly, very, very hard work. Come on.
You got your dogs with you as well?
Absolutely, they go with a long haul. It's all part of the status
All part
of being a
of
lord.
But what would a place like this have cost a man like you? I mean, it's absolutely extraordinary, isn't it?
It's a vast expense. It's a huge, huge undertaking.
I mean, what would have gone on in a place like this?
Well, feasting, the Lord would conduct his business, receiving guests, visitors, of course the king himself, which is why it has to be of such huge status. Of course, to impress the king, you don't want to bring him into a hovel.
Yeah, and it's also, I guess, about establishing your position in society in terms of the lower orders as well.
Exactly, yeah, I have to show them that, you know, I am a superior person who can look after them. All those people out there beyond the walls of my burh, I've got to take care of them. I'm the billionaire industrialist, you know, I own huge amounts of land. I don't even know how much land I've got. I've got people working all over the country in pockets of land I've never even visited, bringing in revenues to me that I'm using to help support the country, to provide men for the army, for the king.
And there's that sense of slight gangsterdom, isn't there, about it? I mean, there's you with your own set of hoods, aren't you? You've got your own little private army.
Exactly, yeah, I've got my henchmen. They do my tax collecting. They see that everyone behaves on the land because, you know, to a certain extent, I enforce the law. But yeah, they are my men, very much so.
But men alone wasn't enough. They needed arming and armour. So a skilled blacksmith like Chris Bell would have been invaluable.
Hi, Chris.
No.
I have been digging this stuff up for years, but of course mine never looks quite as shiny or as tidy as yours. But I've always been fascinated. How long will it take you to make a suit of mail armour?
About 1,000 hours in a full shirt.
1,000 hours?
Yeah.
So these aren't cheap, are they?
No. No, very expensive in period, yeah. It's around £40,000 to produce a shirt of this scale.
In modern money?
Modern money, yeah. Obviously, during a battle, you know, if you didn't have a shirt and you killed somebody who did, you'd take it off the body and put it on yourself. So these things were very expensive.
So it's kind of battlefield recycling.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
How on earth do you put this kind of stuff together? It looks like the most complicated knitting pattern.
Well, it's quite easy. Come and have a go.
So what you're doing there, you're just punching that
Yep.
that point into the side of the link.
So, wanted to take a tiny rivet.
That's not what I think of as a rivet. It's just a sliver, isn't it?
And the longest point down.
There we go. Okay.
Same again if you do the same, but just give it a gentle tap with a little hammer.
What do you think?
Yeah,
But that's it.
that's it.
But that, I mean, that's just a phenomenally fiddly business, isn't
Yeah.
it? I mean, I've just tried to make one in a slightly cack-handed kind of way. You're obviously much better at it than I am. But how many of those would you need for a male shirt?
About 20,000 on the shirt.
20,000?
Yeah. The time it takes to produce these is phenomenal, yeah.
But chainmail wasn't always enough to protect you from the most feared weapon in Anglo-Saxon England, the traditional longbow. Chris Bolton is Wickhurst's expert bowyer.
All right, Chris.
Oh, hi, Jules.
What are you doing?
Well, I'm tillering a bow.
You're tillering a bow?
Tillering a bow. Yes, this thing's called a tiller. And the idea is you can look at the degree of curvature.
Well, so you're looking for kind of the symmetrical bend?
The symmetry of the bow. I mean, a good example, I actually have a yew bow here, which was made by a friend of mine.
Ah.
And There it is, strung.
Strung.
And you see how you get this nice even
Highly strung,
curvature.
one might say.
Highly strung, used by rule of thumb.
Brilliant. Is that it? Is that where
yes,
rule of thumb comes
that's
from?
right, yes.
That's fantastic.
There's your measure for your bracing height
Okay.
of the bow.
Yeah.
If it were too high, it would indeed be called highly strung. The bow becomes tense and nervous. It does.
So what's the sort of effective range? If you were wearing a chainmail suit,
Yeah.
how close would I have to be?
Probably anywhere within 80 yards, it comfortably goes straight through me.
Through you?
Oh yeah. I mean, a
Throwing out the other side?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, a male shirt is you might as well wear a string vest. I know. I've tried it. I've tried it with this.
That doesn't give me a lot of comfort, really.
Well, no, but you've got a shield, you see.
Yeah, oh, okay.
And you've got a big wooden plank in front of you. And
Yeah.
you stick that out, and the arrows come through and stick through about ish far, you know. And you think, you know, but it stopped the arrow.
Come on then, Chris. Let's see what this can do, shall we?
Yeah, let's go for that log over there, shall we?
That is fantastically quick.
It's got a fair old bit of poke in it, hasn't it?
All I can say is I'm very, very glad that you're on our side of the palisade and I'm not on the other side. Life in 9th century England has seen through this fantastic project here at Wickhurst has certainly taught me a few things that I didn't know about life under Alfred. So join us after the break when I'll be putting my own very special mark on that fantastic long hall behind me and slipping into something a little more Saxon. Welcome back to Revival, where this week we're in a corner of Kent at an ambitious building project. This is Wickhurst, a real labour of love and a reconstruction of a 9th century Saxon village. Today we're telling the story of how our Saxon ancestors saw off the Vikings, disease and hardship to create the nation we know today.
We normally think of Alfred as the king who burned the cakes. But culinary skills aside, he was actually a king of huge vision and ambition. He wanted his people to be educated and protected, not just from invaders, but by the law too. Far from being a dark age, in reality Saxon women enjoyed a freedom and protection that English women wouldn't achieve again for another 1,000 years. And my guide to Saxon girl power is Ali Higginson.
So Ali, what kind of rights did women really have in Saxon England?
They had the right to own property. They had the right to control the keys to the household. A woman had the right to not exactly choose who she would marry, but she didn't have to marry someone she totally disliked. Nobody could force her to.
So that whole business of arranged marriages, that perception of kind of early medieval life as this kind of straitjacket for women is probably not quite the image
No,
that
not
we...
strictly true, no. When the man wanted a woman to marry him, he would have to give her money. Not to her father, not to her family, but to her.
And that would stay with her forever?
Would stay with her even if she got divorced. Under the Normans, women became goods and chattels, which of course lasted then for another 1,000 years.
What you're saying is that when the Normans arrive...
It took a great big backward step for women.
Yeah, women's rights kind of take several steps backwards, presumably.
Yes, massive. From that moment, it was from then on that women couldn't own anything. They owned nothing in their own right. A Saxon woman owned her own property, could divorce her husband for certain causes.
But if you had to live your life again, if you came back 1,400 years ago, would you want to be a woman in Saxon England?
Only if I was a rich one. Only if I could wear nice posh stuff.
Alfred's shrewdest move was organising his England into defended villages like Wickhurst. But creating a nation isn't cheap. It takes a lot of hard cash to keep it running smoothly.
And this was what it was all about, good old-fashioned Saxon silver. In Alfred's day, a small coin like this would be worth about £25. And if you had enough of them, it could buy you men, power, and your freedom, if you got into trouble.
Under Alfred's laws, getting off a murder charge cost the equivalent of £250,000, and fondling a woman's breast uninvited would set you back £625. A hefty fine for Saxon sexual harassment. But while Saxon women had rights, they also had duties too. High on their list was making clothes. Expert spinners Jill Golding and Alex King head up Wickhurst's rag trade.
Alex and Jill, this is one of those immortal kind of processes, isn't it? Spinning has been done since time began, really.
Well, certainly since Neolithic times, and It was the only way that people had of getting yarn in order to make clothing. People would have learnt from about the age of 4.
So literally everybody?
Yes, yes, including the men.
Including the blokes?
Including the men. You're laughing, would you like a go?
Well, I suppose I better had, really. But I can tell you, I'm not going to be as good at it as you are.
I'll shorten the thread for you.
It looks horrifically complicated. I don't know quite how.
From the thread,
Right.
spin it like a top.
Okay.
The weight keeps it going with the momentum.
Right.
And it produces tension on the thread. And because it's going round, it's putting a twist in. And I'm drawing fibres out at the top, and then I'm letting the twist go up into the fibres I've drawn out.
You make it look so easy. Okay.
Hold that in your right hand.
My right
at the
hand.
Top,
Okay.
very gently, don't squeeze it.
Okay.
And give that a twist.
That way.
Clockwise.
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 Okay.
At the top.
And I just
pinch there.
Yeah.
Pull the fibres out.
Oh yeah, I can
the
feel
hand
it.
At the top.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you let go with the hand at the bottom, the twist will travel up.
Yeah.
And you've made some thread.
And how much time would be spent doing this? Was this something that you do?
All your free time. Any time you weren't doing something else.
You've just spun a couple of inches. It would take about several miles in a man's tunic.
How many miles?
About 6, I think, is the figure, or something like that, isn't it, Alex?
In a fine tunic.
6 or 7 miles. Well, I hope you've done a lot of this, because there's no way I'm going to finish 6 or 7 miles of this.
With a chainmail suit taking 1,000 hours to make and a tunic needing 6 miles of thread, nothing happened quickly in the Saxon world. Dyeing this thread took another 6 weeks, but it was worth the wait, because the colour you wore told the world who you were. And the brightest shades, like blue woad, were reserved for those at the top of the Saxon tree.
I mean, it's absolutely beautiful, I have to say. I mean, if I'd have had a woad garment, presumably I'd have arrived.
Absolutely, very high status. In fact, we have a very high status garment here for you to have a look at.
That's beautiful. Oh, that's terrific. Those designs.
Which is
Was that very common to have designs like that?
Not very common at all. You would have to be probably a Thane to wear something like that, and you would only wear it on special occasion.
So I really would have arrived if I could climb into one of these.
So are you going to try it on?
I'd love to. I'd love to. I'm not sure if my status quite fits it, but I'll certainly have a go. So what do you think?
The colour really suits you, but, you know, work has started. You can't go to work dressed like that.
It's a bit posh, isn't it, for that sort of thing?
We've got something a little more basic for you to wear.
A little more lower status.
In lovely brown.
Sort of like a revival.
There.
The low rent, do it all option. Marvellous.
Now that I'm kitted out as a lowly working Saxon, I can join head carpenter Kevin Cowley on Wickhurst's big build.
Hey Kevin. I am. I'm now booted and suited and ready to work, mate.
Well, we better put you to work then.
Well, I think you better had.
Well, we're marking out joints here for the side of the porch. 2 sides, nice carving over the top. Big doors, big statement.
Huge timbers, aren't they?
Yes, they are. They tended to over-engineer things by modern standards because they didn't know any better.
Well, it's pretty clear this isn't going anywhere, is it? I mean, it's
I hope
absolutely
not.
solid.
I hope.
It'll be down to you if it doesn't, isn't it?
Well, indeed.
So what can I do?
Well, I've just checked this brace, and we need to cut it to depth.
Right.
So if I take this out of the way,
Yep.
and give you the chisel.
Okay.
Mallet's there.
Right.
If you come in from that side,
Right.
and just cut away to depth.
And how much timber are you going to use in the building of this thing? Because it is absolutely vast, isn't it?
Well, each of the main uprights weighs about a ton apiece.
And it's all oak, isn't it?
It's all oak. It's all felled within 5 miles of this site.
But how do you know that the joints, such as the one I'm trying to make,
You're doing reasonably well.
are right and accurate?
What they would have done is the master carpenters would have marked the joints.
In what way? With their initials or with numbers or numerals?
With their initials or with a particular set of marks that indicates that they were the people that made the joints or made the building.
So not only does it tell you that they made it, but presumably which joints go where?
Yes, definitely which joints go where.
Are we going to mark this? What do you think?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Let's mark this end.
So what kind of mark can it be?
Well, what's your initial?
Could it be an R?
It could be an R.
An R for revival.
An R
How
for,
about,
yeah.
how about
Good
that?
idea.
Just in there.
Just in there.
It almost looks kind of runic.
It does indeed, yes.
Leaving Kevin to finish off the porch, I'm off to check out Saxon healthcare with herbalist Liz Tice.
And essentially, it strikes me that you're Whithurst's GP, aren't you, really?
Well, it wouldn't have actually been me, it would have been a man. He would have been the doctor, or leech was the word for it.
He was called a leech.
A leech, yes, or lech, it means healer.
Right, okay.
But a woman would probably be involved with using herbs for potions and ointments, or for midwifery as well.
And what have you got there?
I've got this one, this is wormwood here.
What's that, it? Wormwood?
Yeah.
Can I try a bit?
Used for worms, actually, to get rid of worms.
Was that a common thing? I mean, were they a fairly healthy bunch?
They were quite healthy, but they did suffer from things like worms and lice, things like that. If you eat cabbage every day, apparently you won't get lice. There you go.
What have you got there?
This is plantain, is the modern name. It was chopped up and put in a recipe, and then the charm would be said over the top of it.
And what was the charm supposed to do?
It actually cured hemorrhoids.
This stuff cures hemorrhoids.
There are lots of wasps around, so if you get stung, I've got a great remedy for you here, if you'd like to try it.
What is that?
Well, we'll try it, it's quite pleasant.
It's a very dark-looking liquid.
Yeah.
God, what is that?
Well, there's a hen's egg in there, there's some Welsh ale and some fresh sheep's dung.
From fresh sheep's dung? Right, you'll go, you have some.
Oh no, that's fine. Thank you very much.
So despite being made to eat sheep's dung, the Saxons were a healthy bunch. And thanks to Alfred, they had food, cash and security. He certainly earned the title Great, as does this great hall, where soon we'll be enjoying a real Saxon feast. And as we fit the heavy porch frame, another piece of the Whithurst vision falls into place. These 21st century Saxons certainly have plenty to celebrate.
That's it, it's in. Hey. One more piece of the jigsaw, eh?
Indeed. One more piece.
It's clear that at Whithurst, Regia Anglorum have created the most fantastic world that's certainly given me an insight into Anglo-Saxon England that I never thought possible. And I've certainly learnt a lot that I never knew before. So I'm going to raise a toast to my fellow Saxons and to Whithurst. Cheers!
Whithurst!